becomes a follower of Jesus. And we can see the impact Jesus had on Nabeel in Nabeel's last recorded words. Nabeel's internal organs were riddled with cancer. His stomach had been removed. The doctors had given up on him and had stopped feeding him. And he understood that they were just going to keep him heavily drugged until he died. This was his last chance to share something with the world. And what was his concern? He wanted everyone to know something about the God he served.
You know, our God is a God of love, and that should be what keeps us driven. That should be foremost in our mind. So whether you're talking to a Hindu, a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian, whoever you're talking to, may it be out of love.
And he wanted people to understand that even though he had been criticizing Islam for years and telling Muslims that they're wrong about God and Jesus, he wasn't doing that out of hatred. He was doing it out of love. He wasn't telling Muslims that Islam is false because he hated them and wanted them to feel bad. He was telling Muslims that Islam is false because he wanted them to know the God of love. And he apologized for times when his love to others wasn't clear.
You know, I think it's very important that we discuss matters of truth. But at the end of the day, that is supposed to be undergirded by love and by peace. And so if at any point I've said anything that seems to contravene that, I do apologize, and I hope that that's not the legacy that I leave behind.
So, Jesus' final message before death? Father, forgive these people for torturing me, spitting on me, and nailing me to this cross. Stephen's final message before death? Lord, they're stoning me, but please don't hold this sin against them. Nabeel's final message before death? God is a God of love, and if I haven't seemed loving enough towards you, please forgive me.
Assalamu alaikum and hello to my non-Muslim viewers. Today I'm going to be talking about. I saw a video, by David Wood about Nabeel Qureshi. It was suggested to me by YouTube, so I watched it. Usually I don't pay attention to what a lot of David Wood says, because a lot of what he says is just either it's nonsense or just hate mongering, or it's already refuted arguments against Islam. But sometimes I will refute what he says. But anyways, this video kind of made me think, because recently I bought this Bible. It's called the Archaeological Study Bible. It's the NIV Bible. It's a New International Version. So I've been reading the Bible, both the Old and New Testaments, kind of pretty much in depth now. Now that it's the summer and I don't have school and stuff like that. So I've been reading the Bible. A lot as of last month or this month, and I just want to touch on what David Wood was saying in his video. Basically, he was saying that Nabeel Qureshi, basically he showed a clip from Nabeel Qureshi. Let's listen to that clip. I'm going to play that clip right now. This is Nabeel Qureshi's last words before Nabeel Qureshi died. Let's listen to it. So basically, what Nabeel Qureshi is saying is that whatever he did for his religion, which was Christianity, he did it out of love. And he said, and Nabeel Qureshi's dying wish is something along the lines of, "Let love reign." So Nabeel Qureshi's dying wish, or Nabeel Qureshi's last words, was for love to reign. But look at what David Wood is doing. Just look at what he's doing. He's trying to hate monger against not only Islam but against Muslims too, saying some Muslims wrote on his YouTube comments that it's good Nabeel Qureshi died, and Nabeel Qureshi died as a curse from Allah and stuff like that. So basically, David Wood's whole ministry is that Islam and the Prophet Muhammad are the enemies, and that they need to be fought and stuff like that. This is why he keeps making videos critical of Islam and, hating against the Prophet Muhammad and stuff like that. Now, whether he attacks individual Muslims or not, is besides the point. But let's just stick to the Prophet Muhammad real quick and his criticisms against the Prophet Muhammad. Now, I don't think David Wood is really honoring Nabeel Qureshi's last words, because Nabeel Qureshi's last words were, we should do things out of love, and our God is a God of love. And Nabeel Qureshi said the whole point of his ministry is for love to reign, and and his last words were. Whatever we do, we should do out of love, and our God is a God of love. And if we're preaching the gospel, this is his words, if we're preaching the gospel to a Jew, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, agnostic, whoever, it should be done out of love. According to the New Testament, according to the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 27, it says, love your enemies. But I tell you, and I'm reading from the New International Version, it says, but I tell you who hear me, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, and bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. So basically what Jesus is saying is that we should love our enemies and do good to those who hate you. So my question is this: if Nabeel Qureshi's critics are going on David Wood's YouTube comments and are writing nasty hate-filled comments about Nabeel Qureshi's death, saying it's actually good that Nabeel Qureshi died and it was a curse from Allah and stuff like that, if they're really doing this, then shouldn't David Wood respond with a more positive response, instead of going out, instead of trying to attack the Prophet Muhammad? Is this really what, if David Wood views Prophet Muhammad as the enemy, and I think he does, it's pretty clear that he does, shouldn't David Wood be praying for Muslims instead of just mocking their religion? Because notice what Jesus says here in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 29. He says, and again, I'm reading from the NIV Bible, he says, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. So if people on YouTube, if Muslims on YouTube are mistreating Nabeel Qureshi, if they're, praising his death and all that stuff, and that's certainly possible. I'm not saying David was making that stuff up. It's certainly possible Muslims are doing that. But shouldn't David Wood's behavior be to pray for those Muslims instead of mocking their religion? Wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't that be, what Jesus wanted you to do in, the Bible, according to the New Testament? Wouldn't that make more sense? It would make more sense. Now, and that's not the only place where the New Testament says things should be done out of love and stuff like that. If we read the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse if we read the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 6, verse 5 through 16, it says, and again, I'm reading the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 15 through 16. It says, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand and give its light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. So basically what Jesus is saying here is that goodness should be a form of evangelism. evangelism. In other words, Jesus is saying that our behavior is a form of evangelicalism, or preaching the gospel. Jesus also says this in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verse 35, and in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 11 through 12, that evangelicism, or preaching the gospel, isn't having the right arguments. It's behavior. It's goodness is a form of evangelicism. And again, this is found in the Gospel of Matthew chapter. Again, I'm reading. This is found in the Bible. The Gospel of Matthew chapter 5 verse 15 through 16, and the Gospel of John chapter 13 verse 35. Again, this is found in the Bible, so this isn't just my words. This is, the words of Jesus in the New Testament. So, if David Wood really wants Muslims to convert to Christianity, if he really wants to follow the teachings of his scripture, which would again be the Bible, the New Testament, then shouldn't he be providing positive arguments for his religion instead of attacking other people's religion? Wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't it make more sense for me to try to prove Islam rather than trying to, instead of trying to raise, instead of personally attacking people and stuff like that? Wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't it, if I really wanted to give dawah to people, shouldn't I just be trying to give positive arguments for the case, for why there's good reasons to follow Islam, why we should, why there's evidence for Islam, instead of just joining ISIS and blowing things up and shooting people and stuff like that? Wouldn't it make more sense to do dawah using logic, common sense, reasoning, providing evidence for the Quran, for the Prophet of Muhammad, instead of joining ISIS and blowing things up and shooting people and shooting non-Muslims? Wouldn't that make more sense? Same thing with David Wood. Wouldn't it make more sense to give positive arguments for your religion, for the case for the gospel, for the case of the resurrection of Jesus, for the case of the New Testament? Wouldn't that make more sense instead of just attacking Muslims who just keep trolling you on YouTube? Wouldn't that make more sense? So it seems like David Wood's just dishonoring Nabeel Qureshi's last words by attacking Islam over and over again. Now, of course, I'll be refuted. Now, of course, a lot of his material is already refuted, but, Nabeel Qureshi's death really got me thinking about, Christianity and stuff like that. And this to me is like further proof. This is just my subjective opinion. I'm not saying all Muslims hold to this, but this is just my subjective opinion that the death of Nabeel Qureshi is more proof that Christianity is false. Because think about this, according to the New Testament, Jesus heals people and things like that. So if Nabeel Qureshi and Christians all around the world were praying for Nabeel Qureshi to be healed, then why didn't Jesus heal Nabeel Qureshi? That's all I'm asking. Now, whether he's cursed or not, or how he got the stomach cancer or why, that's besides the point. The whole point for me, my whole point is if Nabeel Qureshi was praying to Jesus, then Jesus would have healed him. This would have been a further sign that Christianity is true. If Jesus or the Trinity answered Nabeel Qureshi's prayer for healing. So this is just my advice to David Wood. It's just stop criticizing Islam, stop going after Muslims who are annoyed by you and stuff like that, and start giving positive arguments for your faith, for Christianity, for the resurrection of Jesus, for the reliability of the New Testament, etc., etc. And I will do the same with my faith. I will give positive reasons why we should believe Muhammad, positive reasons why the Quran is the Word of God, and give logical arguments proving the prophethood of Muhammad and proving Islam. That's what I'm trying to do. So, if my methodology is flawed, anybody watching this video, if my methodology is flawed, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section of my YouTube page, and I will correct my methodology. But this is just my humble advice to David Wood. He can take it or he can leave it. I don't know if this video will reach him or not. Hopefully it does. But, remember what Jesus says. Jesus says, love your enemies. And again, this is found in the Bible. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6, verse 27 to 36. If Muhammad really is the enemy, if Muslims really are your enemy, then shouldn't you be praying for them, as Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 15 to 16? Wouldn't that make more sense? wouldn't it make more sense to pray for those who persecute you in Romans chapter 12 verse 14 through 21 instead of attacking the religion of Islam? Wouldn't that make more sense? Wouldn't it make more sense to pray for Muslims to become Christians, instead of just attacking their religion? And again, this is according to the New Testament. But to be honest, David Wood's not the only Christian who does this. Other Christians also do ad hominem attacks and stuff like that. So he's not the only. To be fair, he's not the only one. But this is just my response to him. So if behavior is a form of evangelism, as Jesus says, again, found in the Bible, Gospel of John, chapter 13, verse 35. Shouldn't David Wood's behavior be reflected on that? Shouldn't David Wood be trying to give positive arguments for his religion instead of attacking other people's religion? Wouldn't that make more sense? But again, this is just my 2 cents here, and I don't know. I don't even know if he's going to watch this video or not. But this is just my 2 cents here. If Nabeel Qureshi is right that God is a God of love, then you should love your enemies, whether your enemies are Muslims, atheists, agnostics, Hindus, Buddhists, whoever they are. It doesn't matter what religion they are, and you should pray for them and start giving more positive reasons to believe your faith instead of attacking the faith of others. And I'm going to start doing this too. So this is just my 2 cents here. Thanks so long.